If you can think in English, you can easily speak English fluently and confidently. Hello everyone, welcome to the video. My name is Renu. Today in this video, I want to discuss about 5 powerful strategies which will help you to think in English and you can speak English fluently and confidently. So this video is going to be really informative. Before starting the video, I would like to request you here, if you haven't subscribed the channel already, make sure to subscribe this channel right now. And of course, as this video is going to provide you 5 amazing strategies which will help you to think in English, to speak English fluently and confidently, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. And of course, share your feedback in the comment section about this video. Now without further delay, let's get started. Alright, so the first important strategy is that whenever you are going to speak on any topic in English, as you all know very well that English is our second language, right? We are supposed to learn everything, at least basic things, so that we can describe simple objects or simple conversation of our regular life, right? So the first important point is that, and of course, any language is made up of words, meanings. So we must know some simple meanings in English of objects, or you can say some action verbs and some other meanings which we can use in our conversation, which we can use to think in English, right? If you're going to describe something, any book or any item, any object, you must know what we call that object in English, right? Then only you're supposed to speak in English. Then only you can think in English if you know what to say that object in English. So it is the important point that you must know some basic English meanings. You can just learn about English meanings of objects or different types of verbs in English, and there are so many other meanings, right, which we really need to just speak in English. So just try to learn first of all basic meanings of items, of objects, or you can say, so you can just go with some simple or regular uses of verbs, or you can just learn basic grammar. Basic grammar is really important, if you really want to learn conversational English, you want to speak with people in English, then you must know basic grammar at least, so that you can frame sentences, right? If you know basic grammar, then only you're supposed to create or make sentences. Now you know how to create, you know very well basic English grammar. So the first point is that try to learn some basic meanings in English of items, or you can say objects. You can go with some simple action verbs, or you can learn basic grammar. Then only you can start thinking in English. Once you know very well all the meanings in English of verbs or items or simple basic grammar rules, then only you can start thinking in English. Alright, now let's move to the next important strategy which you really need to follow to think in English. Alright, so the next very important strategy is that which you really need to follow to start thinking in English flawlessly, to speak English confidently and fluently, is that you really need to stop translating. Now it sounds very difficult, right? Most of you guys always share that we cannot stop translating. It is really hard, as we are not from English medium, or English language is our second language. We cannot just stop translating in our mind when it's time to think in English. It's really hard how to do that. So the important point is that you really need to do that. You just need to stop translating. Once you stop translating, then only you can shift your mind in different zone of thinking in English, right? So the first point I have shared with you, you need to learn basic grammar. If you want to learn conversational English, try to learn basic grammar, and then you can start thinking in English. Alright, now what happens is there are so many people, they know very well basic grammar, right? But they always keep translating in their head. And you know what? That is the only thing because of which we feel stuck in our mind. We just feel blank, we just forget words, right? It is very common question that I've been receiving in my comment section, that we forget words we cannot speak in English. Even we cannot recall any separate vocabulary to explain our idea. So this is just all as you translate, right? So you really need to stop translating in your head and start thinking in English. Now how you can do that? If you stop translating, right, try to always remind yourself that you don't have to translate. Always try to remind yourself that you don't have to translate. And on the other hand, what you need to do, try to make efforts to think in English. Always remind yourself that here you have to think in English, right? Try to remind yourself that you have to think in English. Now you can start with some basic topics, or the topics that you are interested in, like anything. It can be anything, whatever your interest is. You can start thinking about that particular thing, right? It will help you so much. As you are starting with the topic that you like, you are more likely to think more about the topic. All right, for example, that you like red rose, right? You like red rose, that why you like red rose, and what is the reason behind it, and did you give it to someone or something else? There are so many sentences or questions. You can just create some questions as well regarding the object or anything you are describing, right? So make sure that you are not translating, rather you are reminding yourself to think in English always. Wherever you go, whatever you see, any object, any person, or anything, try to create few sentences, right? You can start by creating 2 or 3, then 5. I mean, just gradually try to level up, try to increase your level of thinking, of creating sentences. Initially, just go with creating 4 to 5 sentences, then and gradually you really need to increase your level of creating sentences, of thinking in English. All right, so whatever you do, wherever you go, try to think in English. And of course, make sure that you are always reminding yourself to think in English, and always reminding your mind not to translate, always. Okay? Yeah, I know it is difficult. It is going to be really difficult initially, but I'm really sure if you do it for 1 week, you are going to be habitual. You are going to be habitual, and you will be able to think in English easily. Now let's move to the next important point. Till now, I've shared with you that you really need to learn some basic things, some basic vocabularies or basic grammar, as English is our second language. So we are supposed to learn everything, every basic thing. All right. And the next point I have shared with you, that you really need to remind yourself again and again, as much as you can, that here you have to think in English. Whatever you see, wherever you go, make sure that you are reminding yourself to think in English. You are making efforts to think in English, and you are also reminding yourself not to do translation. Okay. And the next important strategy which you really need to follow to just boost up your English thinking, which is you need to follow visualization. You need to do imagination. Like if you have free time, or you don't have anything to do, or if you really want to give your time to study English or to practice your English, what you can do to start thinking in English, you need to imagine, right? You can imagine any scenario, anything, any story, or any conversation. You can just describe any object, right? If you have time, you can do that. Because if you're imagining, see, this is similar with the point as I've shared with you previously, that wherever you go, whatever you see, try to create sentences. Here you are creating in your mind. Similarly, whenever you get time, your free time, right, there is nothing to do, what you can do, just keep thinking in your mind. Keep thinking in English. Try to describe whatever you see around you, right? And you can also create some imaginary stories, or any moment, whatever you want to just do in your life, whatever you want to just think about. All right, so just take you can say help of imagination. It will help you so much to start thinking, and to just to be in that flow of thinking in English. You can also take advantage of that amazing activity that's called visualization. All right, So just try to visualize everything. Any moment or anything you want to achieve in your life, try to visualize that you have already done that, and now what is happening next. Or anything, whatever you want to think about, you can think about it. You can just create some amazing or funny stories in your mind, right? There is no one who is going to judge you or who is going to criticize you. Nothing is there. You can easily think about anything. You are free to think anything, right? But make sure that you are thinking in English. It is the important point. It is the exercise will help you to think in English flawlessly, smoothly. And once you know how to think in English, you would be able to speak English flawlessly and smoothly. Now let's move to the next amazing strategy which you really need to follow to start thinking in English, to speak English fluently and confidently. So the next important, and of course I would say that this is very important strategies which you really need to follow, that you really need to give separate time to each and every aspect of English. You must be aware of that there are four important aspects in English, that is reading, speaking, writing and listening, right? And we are supposed to give separate time to each and every aspect, because if we give separate time to each and every aspect, we are more likely to start thinking in English soon, right? So you need to here give separate time to each and every aspect of English language. Now what you can do in a day, you just need to give 10 minutes each and every aspect. For example, just listen something for 10 minutes, read something for 10 minutes, you can write something for 10 minutes, and you can speak your English speaking. I mean, you can just practice your English speaking skills. You can practice more than 10. It's up to you how much time you have, but if you practice more, you are more likely to be fluent quickly, right? So practice is really important. Alright, now come to the point that you really need to give separate time to each and every aspect. Now let's talk about the reading first. You can read anything for 10 minutes in early morning. Well, I'm an early bird. I like to read in morning. If you like to read in evening or afternoon, you can read anything, whatever you like. Well, I go with some books, some self-help books or some different types of articles. You can like whatever you like to read, you can go with that. But make sure that you are reading consistently each and every day, at least for 10 minutes, right? So make sure to read something every day, minimum for 10 minutes. It is really important to just understand the language deeply, to have a good connection with the language. All right, so make sure that you are giving time to readings for 10 minutes, minimum for 10 minutes. Now let's talk about the next important point, which is listening. I believe that listening is the most important aspect. If we follow, we can speak fluently and confidently quickly. Listening is really important. We learn a lot of things, right? New phrases, new vocabularies, and some correct pronunciation. If we listen, right? If we listen, with full of attention, with full concentration. So it is really important to listen English content each and every day. It will help you to have a good command on English. So make sure that you are listening something each and every day, minimum for 10 minutes. If you have more time, then you can utilize it. You can listen something 20 to 30 minutes. All right, but make sure that you are listening English content each and every day, minimum for 10 minutes. It will help you so much to learn something new every day in English language. You can get to know some different types of phrases which usually we use, like usually English speakers use, or you can say some different correct pronunciation of different words, and so many other things you can know, right? You can just get some different amazing ideas if you're listening English content each and every day. So make sure that you are listening English content minimum for 10 minutes each and every day. Now let's talk about the next important aspect. So the next important aspect is that writing. Writing is really important. Believe me, writing is really important to speak English fluently and confidently, and of course to think in English super fast. Writing helps me a lot, and of course it can help you too. Now how? Writing gives us chances to explain ourselves, to just correct ourselves, There's so many things mashed up in our mind as we are learning a different language. Then you can just order that. You can just separate that one by one. Just start writing every day. You would be just getting some clarity in your thoughts. You can easily get clarity in your mind, what you need to speak, how you need to frame a sentence, right, and which vocabulary you need to use. So if you're writing every day, you can easily speak English fluently, and you can easily think in English faster, right? So if we can think faster and speak slowly and fluently, it would be really good. You would sound like a native speaker. So make sure that you are writing something each and every day, minimum for 10 minutes. All right, now let's talk about the next important point. So the next important point is that speaking in English. If you follow speaking in English, if you practice speaking each and every day, you can easily become fluent in English. You can easily start thinking in English. So make sure that you are giving yourself enough amount of practice each and every day. And make sure, again, I would like to remind you that minimum 10 minutes. Okay, now let's move to the next amazing strategy. So the next amazing strategy is that to think in English, you must track your time. You must track your progress. Whatever you are doing, like, you must know, right, where you are actually in the process of learning English, in this journey, where you stand. So you really need to track your time, track your progress, I mean. Now what you can do, you can just maintain some journals. You can maintain some journal, or you can also create a diary, your diary, your personal diary, or you can just write about your whole day, what happened with you, and what you're going to do next day, your plans in that diary. And you can write anything, like whatever comes in your mind, right? So make sure that you are tracking your progress of learning English. You will get to know where you actually stand in that learning, in that journey of learning English, right? So if you're tracking your progress of English learning, you you are more likely to become fluent, or to think in English quickly, because you know now, if you once you start tracking, once you start tracking your progress, you can easily get to know where you need to work more, right, and which is that particular area that you are improving, and which is the thing you need to work on more. So tracking is really important. You really need to track your progress. It will help you so much to start thinking in English and to speak English fluently and confidently. Now these are all some powerful strategies which you can use to start thinking in English. I know English is our second language, so it is going to be a little harder to start thinking in English, but you can do it. I believe you can do it if you follow these all strategies. I hope you like this video. If you find this video helpful, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. And of course, share your experience about this video in the comment section with me. Thank you so much for watching. Let's meet in the next videos.